Hello, hello. It's so nice to see you again. Welcome to CAE's CREATE12 Challenge, where each lesson we will cover an element or principle of art. Today, we are covering color, an important element of art. Now, color can be defined as the visual quality of objects caused by the amount of light that reflects from them. For example, hues such as red, orange, and yellow are all examples of color. Let's get into the project, shall we? So, we have our materials. Before we get started, I would like to go over our artist for this lesson, Andy Warhol. Now, Warhol was a very influential artist of the pop art era of the 1960s. You might be familiar with him. He's most famous for his Campbell soup cans. Now, he painted this iconic subject in a large grid over and over again. I will have a picture up here for you. And some of these paintings, he even experimented with color, which is our element of art that we'll be covering this week. We are going to follow Andy Warhol's example and experiment with color in our subjects today. First, we'll need to get a piece of paper. And you want to fold it in half. Now, I've already folded mine here. You want it to be hamburger style, not hot dog. And after you get that folded, go ahead and lay it aside. On a separate piece of paper, we are going to draw out our chosen subjects. Now, pop artists of the 1960s often chose highly recognizable subjects, either from media, comics, or even from their grocery store. You want to choose a subject that is immediately recognizable, whether that be a toy, like a fidget spinner, or a Lego, or as my example, I'm going to be doing a piece of candy, a sucker, these gourmet suckers, which are often sold at schools for fundraisers, immediately recognizable. So, for today, I'm going to have this as my subject, but you can do something like M&Ms or Skittles, just something that people would immediately recognize. Now, whenever we draw out our subjects, we want to make sure that it is not too detailed, because we will actually be drawing this over and over again. So we'll only draw it out 3 times, and we'll use a very specific technique to do this, but we don't want to make it too complex, right? Because that would get kind of tiresome after a while. So I'm going to really simplify this sucker here. Kind of get the wrapping. I may not even put the words on there. Might just have a semblance of the words. There's kind of a logo here. Now I'm not going to write that out, but I am going to make sure that there's a red bar right here on the sucker. All right. All right. Erase some extra things that I don't need. All right. So very simple. Next, this is where a well-lit window comes into play, because we are going to put our first piece of paper over our second one and put it up against a window so that the light shining through both pieces of paper will make the one on the bottom, you'll be able to see through the paper so you can trace over it. Now, it'd be a little bit awkward if I filmed this through a window. So I'm going to use something very similar, basically the same concept. It's just a light box that I have laying around. It works the same way as a window. And you'll see really soon how whenever the light shines through, that I can easily see that first drawing. And so I'm gonna speed through this and I'm gonna draw it on both sides. So I split it in half for a reason. I'm going to have one drawing over here and one drawing over here, and they will be hopefully exactly alike. I'll see you after the speed through. So now that we have both of our drawings drawn out using our window, or in my case, a light box, I'm going to go into the color aspect, talk a little bit more about color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one over here, which is more true to life. So it's going to have the orange sucker. I'll probably add the blue barcode and even the red text, or semblance of text up here. And then I will probably put that on either a blue or teal background just to add contrast. However, in this drawing, I'm going to switch things up a bit. Now, as a previous example, I did this. And this is this I did in 4 areas, but I did a much simpler subject, as you can see. I did just a Lego. So it's really easy to repeat and change up the colors a little bit. But as you can see here, we have a teal block on a kind of yellow background. And then over here, we have a yellow block on a teal background. So we switch these two up, and the same can be seen in these 2 areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same colors that I used in this one. It's just going to be in different areas. The different colors that we use, the different feel that it has. So in this one, we got this yellow block pops out from the dark background. While in this one, it still has that forward motion. It still pops out from the yellow background, but it's definitely a different feel than this one. Even though that these are the same subjects, by changing the colors, we have changed how we perceive them. And that's what we're going for in this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get out my markers and my crayons. And again, I will see you after the speed through. We have that all covered. Now, you may wonder to yourself, why did I pick these colors? Well, it's because this color scheme is what's called a split complementary. So we have our teal here, and the complement to teal is red-orange. But instead of using red-orange, I use the colors closest to red-orange, which is kind of this yellow-orange and this red. So this way, it creates this very strong contrast, which we talked about last week. Another color scheme that you can use in your project is complementary colors, which are opposite each other on the color wheel. Analogous colors, I should say, which are colors that are close to each other on the color wheel, 3 or 4 that are really close to each other. Now, the last step to doing a pop art-esque activity like this is to give everything a very bold outline. Now, in the 1960s, artists were very influenced by comic books at the time, which had very bold outlines, and a lot of pop artists, including Roy Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol, as you can see here, had very thick, bold outlines on their artwork, which was influenced by this comic book style. So after you get everything covered, be sure to give that one last dose of pop art. Give everything a nice, bold